God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege, and this is the Protege program. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you'll enjoy this video and leave a like and subscribe once we get to the end. Thank you once again. Now, today's video is going to be about some stories that I saw over the weekend, and basically it's going to be somewhat of a rundown of those stories. Now, the first one is this one from the Epoch Times, and it's about how the media gives Trump the most negative presidential coverage in 25 years. I think that this is a record of negative coverage. So let's get into what exactly the numbers were. They did an analysis of 3,000 stories during the first 100 days of the presidency across 24 media organizations. And the research shows that only 5% of media reporting was negative, compared to 62%, excuse me, that was a misspeak. 5% of the media coverage was positive, 62% of the coverage was negative. And this is a record of massive proportions, even compared to George W. Bush, the previous most hated president in American history. Was 22% positive, 28% negative. And it's a far cry from where the media has come from when reporting on their darling President Obama, who received 42% positive coverage and 20% negative coverage. And this goes back, I think, to the video that I did exposing the bias towards specific stories with a specific narrative that could be pushed, where the media was ignoring a story about a black shooter that attacked a predominantly white church in Tennessee, compared to their coverage of a white shooter attacking a black church in one of the Carolinas. So this just continues, that the media continues to expose themselves and their bias. They've dropped all pretense of neutrality, all pretense of being apolitical, in favor of pushing their narrative, pushing their agenda with an intense fervor that we've really hardly seen before. And I had another story, a second story that I wanted to talk about, and for some reason I decided to close the link here on my phone, but I have the notes version with me. I believe it was from the Washington Compost, and the headline was that the GOP has left their fiscal responsibility mantra, and they said it's in a twist. The only twist is that they've paid only lip service to fiscal responsibility ever since President Obama took office. Really, ever since right before Obama took office. So my memory of the GOP is that they've at least preached fiscal responsibility. You had people like Rand Paul that talked about being fiscally responsible. But since 2008, when they did the Bush spending cuts, the Bush stimulus plan, Republicans have really not been the party of fiscal responsibility. They've been the party of really just do whatever is optically good in terms of spending. They didn't do anything to hold Obama to account when they obtained legislative power in the House and the Senate in terms of the budget. The House and the Senate have all the control over the budget. The president can propose a budget, but other than that has not very much say in the budget. The Congress is supposed to have all the say. The only thing that the GOP really did in terms of the budget that was fiscally responsible was hold Obama to account for the sequester. The GOP has been scared to death to touch entitlement spending, even though this is the real area where some spending could be brought under control. And with all of this being said, if the Republicans really don't care about spending, then why are they scared to death to do massive, larger than we've ever seen before tax relief? If balance in fiscal matters doesn't matter to the GOP, if it means nothing, then why not hose the federal government with massive, massive tax cuts? One of the big talking points on the latest tax cut is that it needs to be revenue neutral. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, a revenue neutral tax cut is not going to boost the economy. And the Washington Post would have us believe that Republicans don't care about fiscal balance. And if that's the case, then why not do massive tax cuts that really hose the federal government when it comes to deficit spending? The real answer is, I think, that the majority of the GOP that occupies Senate seats are really progressives in Republican clothing, right? Republicans in name only. So now we get to the third story that I wanted to talk about from the weekend that I didn't get to talk about, that I didn't get to cover on Monday because I had the day off. And that's this story, again from the Epoch Times, that America's second quarter growth was revised upward to 3.1%. Now, this is something that the Obama economy never ever did. And I have the chart for you here. It's from thebalance.com. Beginning in 2009, when Obama took office, you could say that half of 2009 Obama's really not accountable for because he inherited that from the previous presidency. Fine. Let's say let's just throw that first year of GDP change out. 2010, 2.5%. 2011, 1.6%. 2012, 2.2%. 2013, 1.7%. 2014, 2.6%. 2015, 2.9%. 2016, 1.5%. And apply the same standard to Trump's economy. The first half the first portion of the year, he's not accountable for because he's inherited that from President Obama. I think I read in multiple places, it may even say in this somewhere in this story, that first quarter GDP change was 1.7%, and they predicted for the second quarter 3%. And instead, what happens was they got 3.1%. The headline of this story should be Trump's economy beats predictions. If this story was being run in Obama's economy, the headline would be Obama's economy beats predictions. They wouldn't show you the number in the headline, they'd just say beats predictions. They wouldn't say revised upward, they'd say beats predictions. And then the first line of the story would be President Trump's economy beat economists' predictions. Economists predicted 3% growth. President Trump's economy achieved 3.1% growth. Instead, they do all this revising crap and talk about those things instead. That was what I really wanted to talk about here, was the fact that we should be saying President Trump's economy has beaten expectations. And I really wanted to talk about these three things because I think it goes to show you what's going on in Trump's America. We had the first story where media coverage was the most negative that any president has received in 25 years. We have Republicans turning their talking points on their heads for the sake of resisting Trump, for the sake of not doing what Trump wants to do. And we have economic growth at levels that economists have not been predicting, beating the predictions of the economists. Instead of talking about all those things like the exposés that they are, they're being glanced over. The big stories on Friday which is where I saw the headline that 3.1 GDP growth had been achieved. The big stories on Friday, were more of Russia, more of Las Vegas, and demonizing the tax plan. The big stories on Friday were more related to the fact that the GOP was doing things that they're not supposed to do, things that they have not talked about before, or things that they've talked about going against. And when it comes to adding money to the deficit or adding money to the debt, the Democrats have never cared about this. The only time that the Democrats care about irresponsible spending are when Republicans are doing it. The only time the media cares about irresponsible spending is when when Republicans are doing it. And then you have the Republicans flipping on their talking points. Again, this only matters when Republicans are doing it. If Democrats do whatever it is they're doing and it is hypocritical in nature, the media doesn't care. They don't bat an eye. They don't give it the kind of coverage that they would give to Republicans. So in Trump's America, not only do you have the narrative, the script being flipped on its head, you have it being flipped on its head in a way that exposes the media for what they've been doing ever since the days before we had talk radio. They're only just now being exposed because the narrative has been flipped so dramatically on its head. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you all again so much for tuning in. I hope you liked the video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on these matters. I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'm uploading every weekday. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, good night and God bless.